Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. And this is The Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast.
This podcast is all about taking action and creating that badass business abundance and life that you want.
Where we share stories, laughs, wins, and epic fails to show you the whole picture of the entrepreneurial journey.
It's not just unicorns and rainbows, people.
Jump on and follow us through this raw and witty roller coaster,
where we get down and dirty and go behind the scenes of life and entrepreneurship.
Get on it,
get over it,
and get after it.
Hey, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to The Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. Lynn, my wonderful co-host, what are we talking about today?
We're going to actually combine two of our favorite topics because everything that we talk about, let's be honest, are our favorite topics.
Sure, true.
We're going to talk about abundance, like the abundance mindset, but also growth and fixed mindset. So yes. We both wrote about these in our book.
Yes. Mindset is an underrated topic, I think, for a lot of business people. I mean, it's like a buzzword, like, oh, your mindset, your mindset. But I think really the application of it is underrated because so much of what I look back on my careers and my life revolves around mindset. When I think back to my angsty middle school, teenage self and my like angry college self and like everything, all the stages of, you know, depression and just my whole world of it all revolves and comes back to mindset. And as soon as you find that shift, man, my whole world changed when I fixed my mindset. Just completely 180 on how I felt. I mean, maybe not, I mean, I was always going to be a perfectionist, let's be honest, but the way I perceived everything in my life completely shifted when I shifted my mindset to more of an abundance one, because it's just so easy to fall into scarcity when, you know, times are tough. And I have a very pessimistic, realistic viewpoint in life, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I have a negative mindset. And that's just a personality trait. But I think people get it confused. Like, oh, glass half full, glass half empty mindset thing. That's not mindset at all. That's totally different.
No, I agree. I'll never forget when I was, when I really, it clicked for me, like actually clicked that you're not one or the other with like growth and fixed mindset, right? Kind of like what you were just saying is that you can definitely have more of a growth mindset overall. You tend to have one that's more overall, but that things can trigger the fixed mindset or the scarcity mindset, abundance versus scarcity. Same, like you can constantly, you know, have an abundant and manifestation and like, you know, what you attract kind of mindset. However, when I really like sat and learned this and saw like, oh snap, like, okay, I see where I'm constantly in growth mindset here or in fixed mindset here, or where I float in and out of abundance and scarcity, because I would beat myself up when I would feel that. Recently I've been feeling it again, I think, because there's like so much going out with our book and everything, but I'm like, like that little scarcity mindset. And then with scarcity mindset, I'm able to like plug in my mantra that I created years ago instead of living in the abundance and the flow. And I think that to me, that's kind of, we're talking about them both together, but kind of the separation is abundance and scarcity is more the flow and the allowing of, kind of knowing that stuff's going to be there, that there's just an abundant amount of there's infinite amount of resources and knowledge and different things for us, where growth and fixed mindset is growth mindset believes that you can learn and be and develop into anything that you want, where fixed mindset is going to be you were born with what you were born with and you're not going to exceed after that. So even though we talk about them to be the same, they are slightly different. However, to me, they go hand in hand, because if we sit in like scarcity, or excuse me, if we sit in fixed mindset and about our income, for example, like I was not born into a wealthy family. I was born into very working class. So if I constantly felt like I couldn't learn anything else new, I couldn't be anything more than what my environment taught me, that could very much keep me into, even though I might believe that I'm in the flow, because I know people who live in a very fixed mind, and they have or fixed mindset, right? That they can't grow outside of this. However, they have like they talk about manifestation and abundance, etc., which it's
the secret.
Yeah, it's kind of contradictory, because then you're staying in the same place, and vice versa. People who might be a bit more in growth mindset all the time, however, they have these scarcity moments, right? So it's interesting to see how these two kind of concepts interweave with one another.
Yes, I think one of the ones I've struggled with the most personally is fixed in growth, because I do believe I have a very growth mindset about some things. And then other things I can't, it's not that I can't, I struggle with coming out of the fixed. And I think I even mentioned it in the book. Who knows what I mentioned in the book? I feel like it was light years ago. It was just a lifetime ago, even though it was like, it feels like it was last year. But, and one of the things I struggle with a fixed mindset is that I do believe there is some level of natural talent that people have. And I think you can't push that into like, some people are naturally better at other things. Like some people, like I'm never going to be an amazing artist. I'm never going to be Monet or like Picasso. I might like art and I like to paint sometimes, but I'm never going to be Van Gogh, and that's okay. And I think this is the example I made in the book was, even if I have all the resources in the world and I have this abundance mantra and I'm going to train to be an Olympic swimmer and I'm going to get the best coaches and like breathing coaches and work on all the different strokes and control in the water, I'm never going to be Michael Phelps. There's always going to be something, whether it's passion or natural inclination or wingspan, there's always going to be something that keeps me a little bit mentally in that fixed world, because I do believe some people were meant to do things that others weren't. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's not saying that someone's better or worse than you. It's just saying that some people are better at certain things, and that's what makes the world interesting. And I think sometimes I confuse that personally with fixed and growth, because some things for me, they're fixed. Like this is what it's going to be. I can't be beyond that. I can't.
You're giving me hives.
I know. But I'm just saying, this is the struggle that I've had over the years. If we're being transparent about, even though I teach this crap, I teach it, but I still feel it sometimes. Like I definitely have a struggle with that in my life, even though I do believe I generally live in a growth mindset. I still sometimes fall back into that fixed world, because I have these preconceived notions about what I'm physically or mentally or spiritually capable of doing based on my natural state in the world.
No, I definitely hear you. And a couple of things, and this is not necessarily directed at you, but you're directed at our audience.
You can direct it at me.
No, it isn't. We've had these conversations, and I would say I definitely hear you. And Michael Phelps is Michael Phelps. So really what you were doing right there is bringing in the comparison tool. So when we start to compare in a fixed or growth mindset or abundance and scarcity, then it does throw us more into the negative, because we are setting up the expectations for failure. Really, comparison is setting us up for heartache and being let down and failure, some people would say. So I definitely hear you. And what I would add to that is, it really should be, can we get to the point or grow out of, and we're going to float, like nobody is perfect. We're going to float between abundance and scarcity, fixed and growth. We're just going to have that's a bit more primary. And we tend to see the results with that, and just not to bring in the comparison loop. And another thing that you were saying, because the comparison is only going to set us up for the harder journey, right? And another thing that you say, and I was thinking, I can't remember the exact quote, and I know he's a bit controversial right now, but Will Smith said something about that hard work will be born talent all day, that he will outwork you. And I do find that. And I think that also, though, comes from very much my story of like making it happen and putting in the grind, even though I didn't have the environment or support around me, and just to head down, make it work. Right. And I think we're really good at that too, because even though we might be naturally talented, and I know you've been a blessing because you're handling all the back end of the stuff that we're doing, not my expertise at all. And even though you have experience, it's not your expertise, but you're just like head down working, like you're not allowing the knowledge that this is not your profession or whatever to keep you from doing it, right? Where other people might be, well, that's just not me. I can't do it. I'm not good at it, which that's the point that I'm in. However, what I believe is, I keep asking Amanda, I was like, do you want to hire somebody? Because I know that's not my zone of genius. So we can hire somebody.
And of course, me, stubborn, no, we're never going to hire anybody. I'm doing this myself.
Which people, we do hire people, everybody. It's not that.
We do.
It's just that Amanda is a recovering.
I've latched on.
She has latched on. She's not
I've latched on. I'm not letting go of it until I have to. So
yeah.
We are still works in progress. So that's but just what you're saying is that this is ever evolving. So even if you feel like you have overcome certain areas, you're constantly a work in progress. And that's what makes it interesting and fun. I mean, nobody wants to be perfect. Even if you could be perfect, it's boring.
No, I agree. And again, and definitely with abundance and scarcity, but I know that I said this with the fix and the mindset, they're not mutually exclusive. Like you are going to flow, and depending on certain triggers that you have or environments or stages in your business, in your life, in your relationships, that it can change. The biggest thing is to be aware and do a little bit of research. When I learned about Carol Dwek, the godmother of, that really brought growth and fix, and all the studies that she did about growth and fixed mindset, and to hear like how these students, by the way, this is one piece of action that I would say, just do a little bit of research on her. I know she has a couple of books, but there's lots of things on YouTube around this as well. But the study that she did with the kids, and like, how they learn, and essentially when you congratulate the accomplishment or congratulate the journey or support the journey, the difference in what you were creating in the fix and growth mindset. Right. And so there's just so much around that I think is really, which we haven't even like dove into yet. But I think that would really serve you if you can just learn a little bit about that. And I wish I would have learned earlier with my children, because I learned this when they were in high school about her and about these studies and how to help with growth versus fixed mindset and how to breed more of a growth mindset, which I think I did a great job. I look at my kids and how they engage and how they react in the world. However, like I said, one of the main things that she talks about is celebrating the journey, the progress, which I know we both do as coaches, consultants, is, I mean, yes, definitely that end goal is really important. We've been having this conversation since our book launched, because we're looking at the numbers and we didn't quite hit that goal, that big goal that we wanted to. However, the journey, like we've learned a lot, and we're hitting numbers that other no-name authors, first-time authors have not hit in our first, I mean, it's only been a few weeks now. So if we were solely focused on just the outcome and not the process, one, we lack learning. We wouldn't probably enjoy it as much. Yeah. Could we push probably harder and get to that point? Absolutely. We can always do things different. However, then it's also creating this, it can create complacency. It can create all these different things because you hit that milestone, but also you lose all of the building blocks that you could have learned from and implemented along the way in order to replicate, duplicate, etc., moving forward.
No, absolutely. I think, but that's part of that journey, and that's part of why there's this fluctuation within scarcity, growth, fixed, all these things. And I think one of the things I've learned over the, last decade, sorry, hard to say, like we both said, like time is a very weird thing. And sometimes I'll look up and be like, how is that person whose butt I used to wipe now getting married? Like how old am I? Like what year is this? So that's a true story. folks. All I could say is at least she's a young bride, but the point is, whoa. However, in the last 10 years, I have learned a lot about the scarcity mindset because, and I think a lot of people have learned this the hard way in the last 2 years, because when 2020 came, for me anyway, the start of 2020 was looking like, based on the numbers, I was going to have a record year. I was like, oh my God, I'm just going to be like, we're all going on vacation. I was living in Hawaii, so obviously it's not like, I mean, vacation is every day, but like we're all going to Paris. Like this, the numbers were looking good. And I was on key to have like a 34% increase from the previous year, which had already had a 25% increase from the previous year. I mean, I was going for it. I was so stoked. And then February, the end of February, 2020 hit. And I'm sure we all remember right around that time what happened. And the world shut down. And I think a lot of people, when that came about, completely flipped into scarcity. And I definitely hit a place of scarcity in that, because I was not even allowed to open my business. And I had to work really hard to get out of that. And I did. I mean, I did. It was fine. Everything was fine. But there were a couple weeks in there that I'm like, this is the worst. And it really made me understand what scarcity does to your productivity, what it does to your mindset, in that I was not my normal creative. It was everything I focused on was the negative. It was just all these horrible things that are happening to me. I'm not saying that they were happening to me, because yes, I think they were happening to many of us. It wasn't like it wasn't a decision I had made that. So, and I think that when you're the reason, when you're culpable, it's sometimes easier to take and easier to push through those scarcity modes. But when you feel like it's coming at you from all angles and you don't have control, and for someone who is a control freak, it hit me hard in those couple of weeks. And it really taught me a lot about how you deal with scarcity. And you have to shift yourself out of it, because if you have a more pessimistic mindset, like I do in general, like just not even a mindset, it's just my personality. What would you call that? Personality, maybe?
Your humor.
My dark humor. When you have that, when you recognize in yourself that you have a tendency to go there, it's so good to really reflect and have the knowledge of yourself to know that's what you're doing. Because if I didn't have the knowledge of what scarcity was at that point, and I didn't know myself enough to know when I was going to the dark side, as it were, it could have gone really bad. I could still be in it. It's very easy to fall down that road and to keep going and going and going and never recognize that that's where you're going. And so having a clear understanding of how you handle those different parts of your life can really affect all of your future decisions when it does get tough. Because I mean, nobody really predicted COVID. And I think there could be something next year that could be just as bad or worse. And we can't predict that, but we can predict in some way how we handle that, how we choose to handle it. Absolutely. That's the mindset shift. And that scarcity hit me hard 2 years ago. And if I didn't know what it was at the time, if I didn't know how I handle it, I'd still be in it.
Yeah. But no, I agree. And two things, but I do want to ask, is there one thing that helped you kind of stay out of the deeper end that you could give as a tip?
Yes. So for me, well, knowing that I'm a control freak, for me, the best thing I could do was regain my control in what I could control. So I know that sounds very like, Amanda, did you just stop eating or anything? But really, for me, it was focusing on the things that I knew I could handle. So if I couldn't make money off my business with people actually coming in, how can I make money with them never coming in? And really embracing the problem and not seeing it so much as a problem, but seeing it as the new reality. Like, okay, and that's why so many businesses pivoted to online quickly, because we really had no choice. And so it was like 2 weeks of freaking out. And then let's just switch everything around. Let's just change our business model. Let's change everything and hope we can get our team on board if they're even coming in. So it's, that was the big thing I did was control the things I could control in a positive way. So taking a look at what the problem was and then flipping it around so I could control a positive outcome from that. Positive being the
Absolutely.
operative word there.
Yeah, I'm glad that you added that, because I know lots of people who, went with the trend and did the pivoting and really were trying to be agile, but yet they couldn't get their mind out of it. So you could see it in the way that they engaged in their copy, in like the conversations that they were having. And so it really does take that conscious effort to even like watch our language and our energy around it, even if we are pivoting. I met with this woman as a financial. She's created a financial platform to help train women or teach women, support women in building wealth, right? And investing and stuff. And it was launched in the Philippines, and it's going to be launched in Africa soon. But anyway, we were talking about the same topic a couple months ago. And she was like, yeah, every time, she's like, as soon as I start feeling scarcity creeping in, we donate something. So she's married. So her and her husband will go and donate and donate in a, not in a begrudging way or in, but really almost like, if you pray around your food or, thank your food, even if you're not religious, like people pray over their food and just think where it's coming from. Or like when you give something, really giving it with the intent of not wanting anything in return, to just put the energy out there. And I love that she did it with something so simple. And actually, I've thought about that a lot because I've had a few things happening, and it like pushes me into a feeling of scarcity at moments, right? Because it will like come and I like get that anxiety. I was like, okay, what can I give? And I have this little homeless guy that I really adore. So every time he's on my street, like I go and buy him food, and I make sure that as I'm doing this, I'm thanking the universe for my own abundance or whatever, like whoever you want to thank. And I know that really helps me keep that part at least in a tame mode, if not in check, if that makes sense. So I loved that piece that she did.
No, that's a great tip. And that's definitely something that I even did after COVID. Like we immediately shifted to like, how can we gather supplies for medical workers? How can we, what charity things can we do where people are dropping stuff off and there's no contact? There was definitely a giving back. And I think that's a fantastic idea that she had, because that's so essential to getting you out of that space, is to really understanding and really believing that you are blessed in whatever way you want to think of that, of the word blessed. But there's always somebody who's worse than you. There's always someone who's struggling more. You are doing okay. So finding that positive shift and the way to pivot positively, that would be your action step. I mean, I know we're coming up on our mark, but that would be absolutely to me the action steps, to give and to shift with a positive intention.
I agree. And if I can add, and this is something that I did with my kids, is for those of you listening that have children, especially younger children, one way that you can start to train them in abundance mindset is like, I actually would make my kids go through their toys so many times a year, and clothes and different books or whatever it was that we were cleaning out. I'm also a minimalist and I'm like, don't like a lot of things, but and then they would donate it, and they would come with to donate it. And actually my one daughter is doing that now with her kids, and they are having a hard time letting go. But really it's embedding that, like giving to the less fortunate, having more of an abundance, that it will come back to you. And I know there's conversation, not just going through the actions. I mean, they are only 2 and 5, but having conversations around it. And I think that this is a way that you can start to even like teach that in your children's lives as well. It's something that's as simple as like going through their toys or their clothes and like gifting them to those that maybe don't have as much, or those more in need. So yeah.
No, I do the same thing, except it's like for every toy he puts in, I'm like, I'm going to put 3 more in, you can't see, we're going to go together, but you thought you were only donating 3 toys, but we're actually donating 45.
Yeah,
so.
Gideon, we love you as you listen to this when you're old enough to listen to it. All parents do it, Gideon. All parents do it.
Right.
You'll do it eventually.
Look away.
And let's, we didn't give something based on fix and grow. So to me, an action step around fix or growth is one, Carol Dweck. If you could listen to a couple of her videos or things on her, I think it will serve you tremendously. But really start to just cultivating growth mindset is first understanding where you're at, where your growth mindset is and where your fixed mindset is. And then to just, like I said before, start rewarding actions, not the end result or not traits, but also ask for feedback, like gain outside knowledge of like where you're at and kind of where other people see your mindset as. I think that, that's what makes us a great team, because we're able to do that for one another and really be able to see or call ourselves out, because we know if we don't call ourselves out, the other one will, but really be able to see where we're at. And sometimes, guess what? And we'll talk about this in another podcast, is sometimes you're around people who strictly have a fixed mindset. And is that somebody, and we find this a lot with entrepreneurship, which we didn't even go down this rabbit hole, is people who I just brought on somebody as a client, and their family is not so supportive. But they have, so the family has a fixed mindset of entrepreneurship and like what it means and like how much they should be paying, even though they don't even support them. So I'm not saying get rid of your family, although I do live in Bangkok for my family. That's a whole other topic. But what I am saying is sometimes like your girlfriend who maybe doesn't support or whatnot, or even like if you're in a household, maybe you need to not talk about your business as much with these individuals and find people who can sit more in growth mindset to help you. And I'm saying this in entrepreneurship, but this is true with all kinds of movement that we do. And they don't do it necessarily out of disrespect. They do it because they want to support us and like protect us. But it is coming from a fixed mindset.
Yes. Yes. I can think of a couple of my clients who are living in that world. And it's really okay to not talk about business with everybody.
Yes.
Not everybody's going to support you in the same way. And you have to, like I talk about it all the time, finding your executive team. It might not be, your sister, your mother, your spouse. Like it might be outside of that. And you might have to make some choices. Some tough choices.
I have to. All right. Well, this was a great topic. We are at time and we want to keep our promise and commitment to you. So until next time,
let's get after it.
Get it. All right, everyone. It's not enough to just listen.
Now you've got to put it into action.
We are so excited to see what you do next.
If you enjoyed our show, please leave us a review on iTunes.
And to find out more about what we're doing, visit us at thepursuitofbadasserie.com.